Today we're looking at deep linking in Expo React Native applications. Now there's a couple of different scenarios where we need deep linking. For example, when we're signing in with OAuth, or when we're sending a magic link login email, we're confirming someone's email when they sign up, or we're resetting their password. In all these scenarios, we will need deep linking into our application. Now, deep linking can be challenging, but luckily Expo has us covered here with a lot of neat helper functionality. So let's actually go ahead and create a new Expo project. I personally like to use TypeScript here. There's a handy create Expo app, and there's a handy template for TypeScript applications. And I'm just going to call this OAuth deep linking here. Okay, great. Now we can step into our OAuth deep linking project, and I like to open it in VS Code here. So here we have our project, and then we can run this with npm run iOS or npm run Android. So let's just quickly have a look. Npm run iOS. Just make sure that everything is up and running correctly. Okay, and there we have it. We can open up our app.tsx. We can do this maybe side by side here so we can see it better. And then we can maybe say, welcome, please sign in. Okay. There we are. That's all up and running. And now we can look at the deep linking part. So first of all, in order to link into our app, we need to define a scheme key. Now you might be familiar with URLs. They have the HTTP or HTTPS scheme, and similar to that, we're just defining a custom scheme that basically registers our app. And so that when someone has kind of this, my app / / with a specific location, we can then make sure that the operating system, so iOS, Android, opens up our application. So let's set our scheme here. So this is in the app.json or the relevant config one. So here in the Expo, and we can see we don't have a scheme here yet. So maybe let's do this at the very top, actually. Scheme bio.thor, because my domain is thor.bio, and then we can just turn that around. Bio.thor is just going to be my scheme here. Give that a save. And so now we can go back and we can implement our auth component. So we can actually just copy and paste this out here. We're going to create a new components auth.tsx and then copy that in, and then we're going to step through it in a bit. So we say new file, we'll just make a components folder and then call it auth.tsx. And then we'll copy this in here. So first of all, we can look at kind of here the export default function auth. So one thing here is this linking module. So this is actually a way for us to get kind of here from Expo linking, basically get the URL that linked, that opened our app. So we can also, maybe we can console log this out. And then we can see when our app gets opened, we kind of get the context of the link. And then we can, create session from URL. So this is the case where we're getting linked into our app. And then we want to create a session from the URL, but we'll get to that in a bit. And then let's open a new terminal window. So we need to install a couple of things. We need here So we can just say npx expo install. So that way we're making sure we're installing the right versions for whatever Expo and SDK version we're using. So this is all auth session. Then we need Expo web browser. We need Expo linking. And then we need, so this is just Supabase.js. So add Supabase /Supabase-js. So let's install these dependencies. Now, in the meantime, we can actually set up Supabase. So the way we do this is we can go maybe into the docs. So here, JavaScript. Then we want to look at initializing here. And we can look at React Native options, which is using async storage here. You can also do secure store with encryption. There's an example in it. And then what we can do is just, maybe we create a new file, utils/supabase.ts, and we'll just create that here. And yes, we'll also need this dependency, async storage. So again, we can say npx expo install. And then we will need our details. So we can go back, we can go to database.new, create a new Supabase project. So I'm just going to create one here, Expo OAuth deep linking. Great. And now while this project is spinning up, let's continue. So we're using our async storage here. We have our Supabase, and then we'll just need to export this const, and then we can import this from utils, actually here, I think utils/Supabase. Okay, we have our Supabase client, and so we have Supabase auth here. Great. And then let's step through this kind of bit by bit. So redirect to here from Expo Auth session, we can actually get this make redirect URI. And maybe what we can do is as well, we can console.log our redirect to, so we get an understanding kind of what's going on in there. Yeah, we have this create session from URL. So this is at the end. We'll step through that in a bit. And then we have the perform OAuth. So performing OAuth, we're just using GitHub here for now. We can call Supabase auth sign in with OAuth. We provide the provider, and then we provide our redirect to, and we do our skip browser redirect. So by default, sign in with Supabase OAuth will try to initiate the redirect, which is great for web applications. But here in our Expo React Native, we don't want that, but rather than we're using the web browser OpenAuth session async. And so the thing is, this will kind of open sort of the relevant browser. So on Android, you know, will open kind of the Chrome sort of context. On Safari, it opens like a Safari browser context kind of window to perform the OAuth session. And we're just passing in the URL here. So by saying skip browser redirect, our data will have a URL. And then we can just open up the URL here with the OpenAuth session async. And then afterwards, we'll just provide the redirect to. So that just makes sure that the browser context then gets closed. Now with Magic Link, we're just saying sign in with OTP. We're providing an email address. And then again, email redirect to, we're providing our redirect to. And then, so here, again, this is the URL. So we're catching the URL that linked, that basically opened our app. So we need to make sure that this component is mounted somewhere where we're linked into our app. And then we can get the URL. And so then what we're doing is we're creating the session from the URL. So we're just checking, okay, do we have params or the error code? So if we have params, we then can get the access token and the refresh token from the query parameters. And so if we have an access token, then we can just say set the session. And then we're returning the data.session. Maybe let's also do a console.log of the session. I will just say data.session. Okay, great. So there we are. And then at the end, we're just having a couple buttons. So one button, the sign in with GitHub, and the other one, send magic link. And so now what we need to do is we just need to put our auth component in here. And we will see our buttons. And yes, I think I forgot to here install this URL polyfill. So let's do that real quick. npx expo install. Okay, great. And then we can just say again npm run iOS. Okay, and so we can now see here we have the Expo redirect to, as well as the URL. So that's the URL that opened our app. Now, as you can see, this is not our scheme. So this is because we haven't kind of custom built our application locally, but rather we're just running the application in the Expo Go app. So this is actually the scheme of the Expo Go app. And so in order to get our own scheme, what we can say is expo run and then provide the iOS flag. And so now we can specify kind of our bundle identifier. So we can also say bio.thor.OAuth OAuth deep link. And so now we're creating kind of the local pre-built. Okay, and so now we're built. And so rather than Expo Go, we're actually now opening our build of the OpenAuth deep link app. And so now what you can see is now our scheme that we registered in our app.json here is defined as the redirect to. Yep, that's great. And so now what we can do is we can finish our configuration. So we do need to configure some things. First of all, we need to actually fill in our project credentials. So we need to put in our URL here. So that's our project URL, and then our public add-on key. Remember, don't ever put your secret service role key into your client applications. The public key, very much fine to expose. Okay, great. So that is set up. And then we need to set up our redirect to URL to be allowed for our website. So what we can do is, so first of all, we can also run run web. And so now we have this here on the web. So let's set this to our site URL here. And then we specify our additional URLs. So npx expo run iOS. So if you remember here, this was our redirect to that we'll set for our OAuth. So let's add this as our URL. Okay, so this is now an allowed redirect URL. And yeah, if we had kind of different screens in there that we redirected to, we could also add them there, or we can kind of use the wildcard to allow sort of any screen redirect within bio.thor. Okay, great. And so now lastly, sign in with GitHub. So here we're opening the Safari View controller. So now we don't have GitHub enabled yet. So let's go ahead in providers. We go and we find GitHub and then enable this. And we will need to create a new client ID. So let's go to GitHub settings. Then there should be developer settings, OAuth apps, and then we can create a new Expo deep link demo. Yeah, let's just use the localhost one here for now. And then this authorization callback URL needs to point to our Supabase project. So we can just copy it from here, put it in there, and we can register our application. And so now we have our client ID. So the client ID we need to put in here. And then we need to generate a new client secret. And then we copy the client secret. Here, obviously, in the name of a secret, don't share the client secret with anyone. I've, in the meantime, deleted this application. But yes, don't share your client secrets. Okay, now we have GitHub enabled. So we can go back, cancel this. We can, again, sign in with GitHub. And so now it says, okay, authorize Expo. I'm signed in as Thor Web Dev. So let's authorize. And so now, okay, we can step through here and kind of see what's happening. So you remember in this case, we would lock the URL if we're getting linked into it. But because here we're actually opening this as kind of this overlay, so we're actually in our app the entire time. So the web browser here then awaits, and basically once it completes, we get our response. And then when the response is of type success, we create the session from the URL. So what we can do is maybe we can just console log this. Maybe let's call it success URL. Okay, let's log this one out as well. And so maybe let's do this again. Sign in with GitHub. In this case, I don't need to authorize it again. And so now we can maybe step through it in a bit more detail. So we can see here, our success URL is our redirect scheme here, bio.thor. And then we just have appended the access token and kind of all the credentials. And so basically that's what we're taking from the URL, and then we're creating the session. So here we're extracting the access token, the refresh token, and we're setting our session. And so now that we have our session, we can then here get the session. You can see we have an access token. We got some user data down here as well. My email address, kind of all that. Yes, so perfect. That is working as expected on iOS. Now, let's check this maybe on web as well. So the way this works on web, as mentioned, we now open this pop-up window. We say authorize Thor Web Dev. And so now actually we're getting the log here on the client side. So we're having this in here. And so the thing is actually, if we refresh here, you remember we get like the redirect to. So that's a great thing about kind of these Expo helpers. So here, this redirect to, make redirect URI, you know, obviously when we're on the web, it then outputs the correct web URL for the redirect. So we can use that properly. Okay, and now let's test this whole thing out as well on Android, because on Android I can make the email happen as well. So let's close this one down. Let's say npx run npx expo run Android. Yeah, we're going to use the BioAuth OAuth deep link, same package name as we're using for Android. Okay, so now again we can see here redirect to is our bio.thor scheme. So let's do the first one, sign in with GitHub. So you can see here we're getting opened as Chrome. Okay, and we're already authorized here. And again, we can see success URL. So this is all working as expected. So let's clear out this terminal window. And now let's send a magic link. And so in this case, okay, so here follow this magic link. We can click login. And now we can see again. So here now the URL. So rather than success URL, so we're now in this other case, this case here, we're getting the URL from being linked into the app from the Gmail app. So that's what we're console logging out here, the URL. And then again, we can get the access token from it, and we can set our session. And you can also here see that we got the magic link. So this is all working as intended. Okay, great. So this is how you can implement native mobile deep linking with Expo. Expo especially makes it easy to do this across iOS, Android, as well as web. If you're using Flutter as well, you can see the configuration here. Now, one thing to call out is that in kind of a production application, you probably want to use these sort of universal links, I think it's called nowadays, where you actually register your production URL. So real HTTPS URLs with your application. As you know, there's sometimes, you want to have like a social preview of like a link. So this is kind of a web piece that you have to implement. But then when you click on the link and the user actually has your native application installed, then it should open the real native application. Now, the configuration here is a bit more involved with kind of registering associated domains and kind of all of that. So yeah, do have a read through the Expo documentation to kind of see if that is the right thing for your application. But yes, deep linking is kind of here how it works. And I hope this was helpful for you, and let us know in the comments what else you want to learn about, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.